everyone. Welcome to the Paladins Console Wars. My name is Gabriella La Tiger Stevia Allen here with Evan Rainday Rayner. How you doing?
What's up, Gabby? How you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
You're like on the other side right now.
Yeah, I am. You know, it's nice to mix it up a little bit. That's what I wanted to do today.
Yeah. I like your get-up and everything, too. You
Thank
seem like
you.
you're really prepped. You're matching kind of all the stuff we have on the desk.
I always try to match my outfits with my Nintendo Switch. That's just a go-to kind of rule of thumb. I think a lot of guys get a lot more traction out in the club if they wouldn't do that.
It works at their Mixer colors as well. Being
Absolutely.
that we're exclusive on Mixer today. So with console, we have a lot of matches ahead, and it's double elimination this time. So we're going to get to see plenty of play from these teams. Are there any teams in particular that you're looking forward to most?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just at the top of the show, you got to give it to the champs from last time, Flashpoint. You have to keep an eye on them. Obviously, the ability for them to play and overcome all odds, get that PS4 title in the console wars is something that wasn't done before. So I'm going to have a lot of eyes on them and any competitors that are speaking up loudly about being able to challenge them.
Well, and they're all fighting for the right to attend HRX, which is happening November 16th through 18th. So get your tickets now, highresexpo.com. And while you're there, you might as well attend the after party. Tickets are currently available all the way through Sunday at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. They will be available periodically, so if you don't buy it within that time frame, you could miss out on your opportunity. We attended last year, and it was pretty great. And just as well, you know, you see we got the Switches and everything here. And if you have one, you can now play Paladins for free on the Nintendo Switch.
That's awesome. All the consoles available now that we have. So it's great. I'm just waiting for it on the Sega Dreamcast, and then I'll be complete.
Oh, yeah? Just full circle with everything. Have you gotten a chance to play it on the Switch yet?
Unfortunately, no. I was there at E3 when they were doing it, but the lines to actually play this at E3 were insane. People are loving it, and I think it's just a testament to it running at 60 frames. It's free, and, you know, hey, it's a great game on the console.
I'm stoked to see that community grow as well as people continue to play it on the Switch. But the matches that we have ahead, first up is going to be Vexed Gaming versus Onslaught. And last time around, we got to see them face off against one another in a best-of-5 that tended to go a bit longer than a lot of us anticipated, and one of them will move on within this bracket. The other will drop down to the lower bracket and continue to try to fight for the right to get to those grand finals. Elevate and Flashpoint will be up after this set.
Yeah, it was a tight set that went 3-2, and, you know, we saw a lot of, I think, adversity overcome. Remember, last time we had Onslaught, who had the injury, formerly Elevate, I believe, or Fable, actually, had the injury of Skeppy in the hand. The only way you can actually get injured as a console player in your friggin' hand. So he got injured, and that was something that was throwing them off. If not, you know, technically, maybe just mentally, knowing that he might not be 100% and he's such a big part of that team. But really what you want to look at is Vex, their flexibility to play kind of a lot of different lineups, triple DPS, triple frontline if they want, and still having guys like Welsh Mania and World Edit who can flex onto the damage carries like the Drogos, like the Zens, and really surprise them, especially with the addition of Lexi Zen being so flexible as well.
It's interesting because last time around, Lexi Zen was in that support role, occasionally flexing onto the Maeve.
That's right.
But now it looks like they've permanently moved to that flex position and actually put Narc on support. So how do you think that's just going to affect their level of play?
You know, when you get somebody having a lights-out performance, you go with it. It's going against the grain, I think, to have a guy become an MVP and then bench him again because he was a sub, like Legacy, for instance, which we'll see later on in the tournament today. And when Lexi Zen does so well on the flex role, you reward him by giving that credence. That's how you reward good play, I think, in competitive environments. You say, this guy performs, you get what performance earns you. And I think ultimately it's going to make their roster a lot more dangerous coming into the final rounds of today.
And then Onslaught on the opposite side have been really performing well with that injury being recovered and everything. But we got some words from them earlier on, so let's hear what they had to say.
Here with Jordan and Skeppy from Onslaught now. These boys, you've been around the block a couple of times. Obviously, Skeppy, you feeling fully functional this time around.
Yeah, no more injuries. So
No more coffee pots for you.
I'm ready to win.
All right, we'll put your stuff in a sippy cup this time around. Jordan, this is obviously not your first rodeo either. How has the landscape of console competitive changed now that North America has been such a heavy favorite at every single event up until the spring where they were finally upset? Is there some changes going on in the mentality of approaching these events now?
Yeah, absolutely. EU is being respected a lot more. I really think that Vexed and Flashpoint are just amazing teams, and I think they're going to be a real challenge today.
One of the things that actually ended up happening last LAN was everyone was like, oh man, you guys are going to be able to take Vex, no problem. And it went the distance. It didn't quite come as easily, I think, as pretty much everyone thought it was going to. Are you a little worried that they're going to be able to cause an upset here, or are you kind of comforted in the fact that there's a double elimination?
The double elimination helps a lot. Last time our drafting, I mean, we weren't in the same mindset as online. Things were different when we came in. I think Vex is a super strong team, but with me fully functional and our drafting different, I think we're ready.
Question for either of you. How would you differentiate and highlight the North American metas this time around versus the European metas?
The European metas, they seem to be sticking to double tank more than us. We're going straight into triple DPS for the most part. It's our comfort. It's what we're going to do. So I think that's the biggest difference.
When I talked to you guys at HRX, running double tank or running triple DPS, and this was kind of from Shu for the most part that told me this, it depends on the roster about what you guys can run. You know, do you guys have DPS players to run triple DPS? Do you have frontline players to run double or at that time triple frontline? Has that changed? Has these teams evolved and sort of been able to run anything they need to now?
I think most teams have been able to. I think some teams are still kind of just best off in the double tank. They have frontline players that can play the DPS, but they're certainly stronger on the frontline role. But our team, I think, is the best at being able to flip-flop. We have Wonderful, who I think is pretty widely considered the best in the game, is possibly in like the top 3 DPS and the best tank.
Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.
So if you injure your hand with the coffee pot, does that give you an excuse for someone to always make your coffee for you?
Absolutely. If Mama's around, you know, Mom, come on, last time, please just take care of your son. Don't purposefully injure me. I know you can get the moms on the guilt trips all the time, but he's not worried about making coffee too much right now. They're amped up, and I think that it's because that mental boon. You notice he mentioned it too. This is something that they're riding on mentally. Like, Skep was not 100%. That's why we lost, and now he is, so we feel great again about this. You know, this was the same squad essentially outside of Cool Matt who was attending last time, and yes, that was an injury, but is it as much as they're making it? Probably not. But because they're making it that big of a deal, it probably is, because morale is sometimes everything. They
also, in the interview, committed to the fact that they're going to be prioritizing triple DPS.
That was bold. Well, you told told the tournament your whole strategy.
Yeah. So usually they stay away from that in interviews because nah, we're cool with just laying it out on the table.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till they come to the gate of the town, and then I'm gonna go right around and flank them. They'll never see it coming. Broadcasted to the entire army. I mean, it's something that I think speaks of tremendous amounts of confidence, and why shouldn't you? You've got a 2-time MVP and Wonderful. You've got Skeppy, who is feeling better than he was last LAN. They've got the type of team support and energy that makes me feel like they could be the stars of this event.
And starting off on Jaguar Falls, it's a best of 3, so it could potentially be a really quick set if they manage to lean into a triple DPS composition. But here we are in the picks and bans, Vexed and Onslaught. What do you think that console might bring as far as champions that we don't normally see on PC?
Great question. I think that because Furia should be allowed here in this, we're going to see a lot of that. We'll see the Furia prioritized. We'll most likely see a little bit of that Nightshade Willow come into play. But the things that you're going to see most often in console are going to be the champions like the Victors, like the Vivians, like the Mojis, like the Saris, who play more bigger roles because of the decreased difficulty, but the higher efficacy due to the lack of just Twitch kind of plays that you can make on PC. So I think we'll see a lot of that. How prioritized, I'm not sure.
And the fact that Moji going first does tend to be a more popular pick on console, but also on Onslaught, you have Wonderful that we've seen bring that out a few times to make it work.
It's really rare to have a player who's considered the best in the business at 2 different roles. And he particularly can be at both the damage, the flank, and also the tank. It reminds me of Bugsy, really, who has that kind of record and has done it from the beginning of his entrance into Paladins competitive. So Wonderful has a big reputation on the line. I think if Onslaught can go through and he has an MVP performance this LAN around, Gappy, he's going to be making a historic statement about his career in Paladins.
That's the thing. I look at the teams and I go, oh, they're on Jaguar Falls. Great Anara play from Wonderful. Yep. Oh, Moji got banned away. He's pretty great at that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But early prioritization of the blasters on both sides.
You know, another champion that we might see too, and I don't know if it's going to work out in this draft, but they are playing the triple DPS is Lex. Pay attention to that. Skeppy brought out what was one of the cooler Lex picks last LAN on Frozen Guard. It got me and Nick going crazy in the caster's booth. So I would expect to see maybe some, some tilting towards that way, because the auto aim on console, extremely effective on finishing off targets and a lot of mobility. Now that they've got their Stone Warden locked in, Gabby, probably looking for that strong healer, and then the DPS deflects it out, and there's the Vivian.
Ooh, Vivian. And even though we did get to see this in PC, I believe we saw more of it on console before it made that trickle onto the opposite end. But with Inara, if you're putting that onto something like Wonderful or anyone that can really navigate, put your DPS on these great players that they have.
Yeah.
And Skeppy, I feel like last time he was limited with the mobility aspect of a lot of the champs. He said it was his pool that got smaller, but this time around, not the case. I
mean, Vexed have an amazing lineup, and we've talked a lot about Onslaught, but Vexed are poised to turn the tables, to really flip it over and say, game is not what it was prior, guys. You're going to have to pick up the pieces, and this time we have our selection of where they go. Makoa, Cassie, Leon, and Drogos, all with Fury heals and the shielding. That is going to be extremely hard, even for a Vivian to break through. They're going to have to be counting on this Buck and Willow to apply pressure to the back line and not get poked out early from the range of Leon and Cassie.
So even though the double front line seemed to be more characteristic of EU, they did opt for the triple DPS. Which composition are you liking better between the two?
You know, I have to go with Onslaught here, because they've proven that they are really in a good position coming into this LAN. I wouldn't be surprised if Vex took it, but game one, I'm going to vote on Onslaught's triple DPS. They seem so confident in.
They definitely had a lot of that spunk during that interview.
A lot of fire.
Oh, yes.
A lot of fire.
I'm ready to see it all underway, though, and we have our casters standing by to bring us right into the action.
So we got Makoa 9th. We've got Genos 10th here. Gore, what are your thoughts?
I'm excited because I feel like we're getting the flavors of what has been like at the top with the console flavors coming in, like Moji first ban, and there's like such an NA console thing that has to be banned away.
Well, guys, we are exclusive here on Mixer. Who do you think is going to win this one? Go ahead, cast your votes now in chat. Evans casted his vote. Gore's casted his vote. We're ready to get into game number one between Vexed Gaming and Onslaught.
This is going to be interesting to see, because again, like, it's one of those things. Wonderful, very specifically, is the person who you can see pretty much play everything. You have Cool Matt now on the Willow, a lot of anti-heal, a lot of counter to what Vex have been able to pick up, but that Leon is going to be the big like opener for them in terms of shutdown
speed, man. It's crazy. Wonderful cruising around the map. Drogos immediately needing to thrust away here. Onslaught early lead on the capture objective, aiming down the sights. Wonderful, a little bit caught in a corner here. And World, then it's going to snuff him out with a couple of rockets.
Now a couple of good shots. Slapodopoulos, though, not in a position that he can actually get aggressive. 900 health is not where you want to be sitting. But Onslaught are all corralled into one room. You get a couple of good blaster shots in there. Unfortunately, Drogos is down. You might be able to change something. Welsh turns around the side, trying to go into the back and get rid of this Willow.
Losing Wonderful early didn't seem to slow Onslaught down much. They're still maintaining control of this objective as they head 70% to nothing ahead in the lead. Wonderful is back to the fray. He's already picked up a kill. Cool Matt now looking for an angle over here on the right-hand side. That wall, Gormizer, may have just guaranteed the first point for Onslaught.
Yeah, I remember a point where we were all convinced that Furia was going to be first ban or first picked every single game. And this is just a showcase of why not that is happening every single game. She just isn't able to operate. You have a bunch of anti-heal coming down from Willow, and then a bunch of shield shredding coming down from Vivian. Literally everything that you want from her is just not being applied.
So it's interesting, right? And let me get your thoughts on this. It seems like on PC, as we do have Onslaught in as the slight favorites for this matchup, PC seem to prioritize their front lines first, right? Maybe the supports, that Genos coming out pretty early as well. Whereas it looks like Console is prioritizing their damage first instead of Furia. Why do you think that might be?
For me, I think it's about the way they have to aim, and it's one of those things that the champions, not necessarily easier to aim, but the ones that are going to be able to get you more bang for your buck, essentially, are going to be prioritized. Drogos, it's going to be a little bit easier to hit your shots, or the shots are more rewarding when you do hit them. He's going to have a lot of damage. Same thing goes for Buck. Vivian, having that little bit of, I want to say, ease while still being able to have that high output.
123 now on the clock as Onslaught attempts to break into the base of Vexed Gaming. We got the Fae Flight coming out. A couple of ultimates being spent by Onslaught. The time and space, it doesn't connect. Cool Matt looking for some shots. He's finding
very light damage over here, but at the very least is corralling Vexed Gaming into a position where they can be followed up on by that seismic crash. It's going to stun 3. A beautiful play from the front line of Onslaught, setting up his team, hopefully to get this one through.
That shield was up and down. Slopodopoulos takes a lot of damage, but World Edit returns with a double kill. That's going to be 3 down on the side of Onslaught. At least a little bit of a pushback. Might lose Trinsic here as well. And so that's going to stop the onslaught that has been coming down from North America, but it's only going to stall it. They still have 40 seconds.
Look at this Drogoz take over the game. Let's look at the damage charts. Let's look at these kill-to-death ratios after that fight. Vexed Gaming with such a beautiful bounce back there. It's incredible to see what this Drogoz was able to do to turn that one on its head. And on PC, I always say, you know, Drogoz, his strongest map for my money has got to be Jaguar Falls. And World Edit's saying, I'm not going to slow down. I'm going to give you that expectation as well.
And if you put him in the right movement, in the right area, he's going to be able to close that out. Buck almost dead out of that. But again, not enough last hits coming down. No Leanne follow-up, no Cassie follow-up. So World Edit hitting a lot of wonderful shots, but just not able to follow up through. And that's going to be the overtime picked up. Trinsic still looking low, might go down.
There it is. Into the overtime we go. 1 for 1 so far. Looking to make it a 2 for 3 as Onslaught have picked up a lot of kills, much quicker than I think Vexed Gaming have anticipated. This Makoa, he's going to try and hold it down. Gormizer, he's got his Ancient Rage as well. Will Slopodopoulos pop it? He tried to, but he doesn't get it off in time, and it'll go through. 2-0 lead for Onslaught.
Maintains the ult, but they used a lot at the tail end. I mean, Enlightenment was used just there as well. And there's a lot of Vex that felt scrambled towards the end, where they were really focused on trying to get everyone on Onslaught pushed back. But unfortunately, you got performances like this pretty much every single time out of Onslaught. You take down 2, we're going to take 3.
Skeppy, fully healed, hands fully functional this time around. Sliced himself open on a coffee pot last time around, and you hate to see it happen. You just absolutely hate it for the guy. One of the major DPS players here for the North American Xbox scene for a long-standing time now. Of course, you got to shout out the 6-man here for Onslaught, Ms. Tay, putting this wonderful draft together. And really giving the boys a leg up.
Pick up a lot. One of the things about them last time was Skeppy mentioning the fact that he could only play like 3 champions versus his normal
So how
pool.
important is for Tay to be on those coach comps and really orchestrating things behind the
Being
scenes?
able to come in, pick it up. I mean, we've seen coaches have a huge impact. Really. I mean, meta pusher specifically, but it makes an impact everywhere you go. Being able to pick up, again, you get Buck Willow that first time around, and obviously it's doing work.
She's got to be very important for Skeppy's performance here today. 39% on the objective. Vexed Gaming off to a great start this time around. They have their comeback mechanic. One more shot from Skeppy. He's looking for it. He's going to find it over the top. 1 second on his recovery. He's getting healed as well. The Ancient Rage is forced out. Will he be able to survive this onslaught? No, he will fall. Slopodopoulos, Lexi combining for 2 kills, looking for more. Wonderful is not interested in giving it to him.
Shield going to be taken down, but he still has a lot of damage coming out. A couple of burst shots, though. Welshmania going to be able to close it through, and with comeback mechanic, Vexed are looking like they are not only in control, they should be able to grab this, but there's still just a little bit of opportunity. It depends on how hard Onslaught want to commit. They're all falling back, though.
Well, that's pretty big. Wonderful going down there. His Sentinels were out. And talk about the Sentinel economy and how getting a Vivian taken down can be so important, or she's going to run the table.
I mean, it's in that area. You pop your ult. Most of the time you hit 50%, like minimum, on the ability to get it back while your ult is there. If you can take down Vivian early on, you can get rid of those Sentinels very fast, and it's going to make a huge difference in terms of the damage output she has. She's going to be good at shredding shields still, but being able to kill off people like the Cassie, like the Leon, it's going to happen a lot less often.
Scouting out now. Global Vision awarded to Vexed Gaming for the time being. Nice hook, threads the needle there. Slopodopoulos will be able to pull in Trinsic, but Trinsic not going anywhere for the time being. A 1-for-1 trade will be in favor of the defense here. They'll be able to reinforce this fight a little bit quicker. Now Slopodopoulos looking for another hook, but as it misses, so does the initiation for Vexed Gaming overall.
World Edit going to be probably the big opener depending on how things go. Only 54% on that ult, but still going to be able to charge it up, have that Dragon Punch. You can get rid of 1 Inara for free if you hit it right, and with the damage output he has otherwise, that's going to be able to enable a little bit more damage, maybe a little bit more push for them.
There it is. No kills coming through for Lexi that time around. The support gone. DPS. Wonderful picks one up as well. Skeppy finds one. It's the entirety of the back line. My goodness, going off for Onslaught. That's going to be a clean 5-4-0 team fight from Onslaught. They will clearly hold the defense this time around.
That's at one of those points here. Lexi's in. You respawn first, and you just sit there for a little bit. You wait for your team, you regroup, and you figure, well, a minute left. We have just enough time.
We'll get it back.
Let's just not do that again. You do have a couple of ults coming online, but they've been very fast on Vex to throw out their ults once they get them. It's one of those things that I think is kind of hurting them in some places. Some would be better to hold on to.
That's a great start to this fight for Vexed Gaming. The hook barely even needed. The small amount of lockdown it gives preemptively is going to be enough to slay out one. There comes another kill following through. 30 seconds on the clock here. It looks like Vexed Gaming will be able to trade this one out very favorably. It's a 4-for-1 so far. The payload bearing down upon them. Cool Matt now respawn. He's just doing his best to try and hold this one off, but Gore, I don't know what he's got to give.
You at least get rid of the hook from Paladins, but there's still a ton of members here. You're going to need Trinsic to live, but he's already half health. Just stepping out of the base. The team's getting taken down, but Cool Matt, wonderful, stepping up to get the damage.
Wow, that's a really, really good combustible knockback, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Trinsic stays alive. You have to give credit to Wonderful as well. He was able to get himself to the payload, contest just long enough, but not die. That's the key point there, because he then went on to shred through that Makoa, and he was able to get the defense.
They have a lot going into this. Again, they were the ones, North American Xbox, that reigned supreme for essentially a year before getting taken down. Europe has not been the ones to really take this matchup, specifically when it comes to Vexed versus this team, Onslaught, because the history always just tends towards Onslaught.
So Wonderful and Narc both do like the same nervous rocking back and forth. Kind of funny thing to notice. As we head in around at number 3 here, it's a 3-1 lead. The defense is held, so the defensive point, of course, scored for Onslaught. A victory here. The payload would mean the first game. This is a best-of-3 set, so these first games are extremely important, because even if it does go to a best-of-3, winning the first game ensures that you get the map pick on map 3.
Comeback mechanic still going to be great for you. Skeppy, I love the disengage, but they do lose Trinsic and Cool Matt early on, and that's going to be anti-heal off the board. Frontline off the board. You're not going to have that presence on the point, so you have to step up, and Skeppy's taking the brunt of the damage because of it.
Wow, Skeppy definitely overestimated the amount of sustain he was going to have there in that fight. Wonderful strafing into line of sight. Wisely back out. I think he's going to try to get one of these kills here. Look at Lexi so low. Wonderful picks it up, gets hooked back out. This could be it for him. No, Makoa has no interest in pushing this. Interesting, he's going to let Wonderful live and just turn and burn, baby.
One of those Sentinels stayed alive, and that's all they needed. Wonderful being able to just kind of back off, get a little bit more damage, shreds the shield. Paladins had nowhere to retreat to, and now the rest of the team has to retreat back to their base. They have nowhere else to stand, and that 39% with comeback mechanic even, it looks like nothing in comparison to what Onslaught have not only been able to achieve and attain on the point, but the control they have around
Two big ultimates. Gormizer, there comes one of them. Inflame, everyone boosted, damage, movement speed.
What a wall!
Gonna drop it though and just go for the stun, but Paladins will counter it all out with the Ancient Rage. Beautiful play so far, but it doesn't stop a 3-for-1 falling in favor of Onslaught.
Now all they need is a couple more kills. Paladins, the first one on the chopping block, but World Edit is just as tasty if they can get rid of him. That's all they need, 99% for Onslaught.
Great try there, great shield from Paladins. He's doing his best to bring this one back, with a numbers game for Onslaught. It's just coming back in favor, tenfold. Ultimate available for Miracle. The Enlightenment comes out, double kill for Cool Matt. This one could go either way still. It looks like Onslaught will have it about wrapped up there. The Inara wall just to seal the deal. What a first game. Very competitive between these two teams, despite the 4-1 slash.
And you hit that 99%, and that was where I think Onslaught focused a little bit better. Once they were looking at the point, they were focused on the objective. Vexed were kind of looking for kills, kind of looking for points, and because of that, the team felt kind of split up. There were points where Wonderful definitely should have died. Paladins could have chased him down and gotten that fight, and then there were fights where it's like, all right, you don't even need to chase that, just sit on the point, get your percentage.
That was kind of, and I want to get your thoughts more specifically on this, the moment for me was when Wonderful's allowed to live. Paladins was in that dark room. I thought he was going to be completely cleaned up there. But instead, he sort of just backs off, which is, it's understandable. Vivian does a lot of DPS, but backing off to then die to more members of Onslaught, I think if you could have 1v1'd Wonderful there, and you could have maybe skirted out one of the other exits of that room and perhaps live. Guys, who do you think at home was the MVP? Gore, for your money, who are you casting?
I mean, I have to give it to Wonderful only because he was shredding shields. And that was one of the things, like, he had a job and he did it perfectly. There was a moment, again, Paladins lets him live. He has one Sentinel alive, shreds that shield. Paladins has literally nowhere to go. He gets burned on the point, and that gives them that control of that last fight.
Well, game one put to rest here of this best of 3. Let's head it back over to the desk to keep this series moving.
Onslaught picking up game number 1 of this best of 3 set.
Yeah.
I think that the moment that they were just talking about, where it was Vivian versus Makoa, and you see Makoa just kind of back off, Oh,
See you
here's the
later.
rest of the team, though.
Yep.
I don't know what to do.
That was an interesting moment. You know, he was chasing what looked to be an easy kill, and he backs up because the line of sight for the Furia heal isn't there. He knows that he needs to get some sustain to go into this fight, but he gets caught by the treacherous ground. He gets caught by the Warder's Field, so he can't get out, and now he forces his Shell Shield, and now they know this is a sitting duck. Or sitting turtle at this point, I guess. But that last fight was really interesting, Gabby. The way that I think everyone's talking about Wonderful, he did a great job, but the way Skeppy played that Drogo's ultimate, which was a big aspect of why he fought, and he is the MVP of today, this game as well, is because he keeps himself alive. He could have ulted right there. He saw Drogo's, he saw the windup. One buck might just say, just shoot him, try and finish him off, but he gets the Furia heal, and he probably knows that, so he backs off, and he just says, let's keep the natural Predator Drogo's alive, because if I trade my life here, it's just a Drogo's and an Inara on the point. He's going to work Trent. Well, he can't work anymore. So I think that was a beautiful adjustment from Skep.
The positioning that he took in that moment, too,
Yeah.
because he had one eye basically on the Drogos and then decided to leap to the opposite end where it gave him a bit more vision on
Exactly.
the entirety of where the team could come from. So I think using the mobility to the full advantage and the map being very aware of where he could poke out from was imperative to their success.
And you just see a lot of, nice rotations here, and that's the end of that fight. He does get picked off, but his pick-off comes from him staying alive and then World Edit having to chase him and spend, with Welsh, probably about 5-7 seconds trying to hide and find him in the corners of the cave in Jaguar Falls. It was just a really, really well-managed team fight. Sometimes it's not about getting the kills. It's about making them get out of position, trying to finish you off. Getting away with 10 health sometimes is the best play you can do for your team because it forces their resources out for a panic or a salty try to finish you off.
So Cool Matt is the one that wasn't here last time around.
Yeah.
What did you think of his performance on the Willow?
I think the Willow is going to be a big aspect of today. We saw it be extremely difficult for, I think, Makoa to navigate around because obviously Nightshade is good. People are figuring out how to play with it. I'm still a Blast Flower fan. I'm going to say that till I die. But I still think that the way Nightshade people are using it is good. And against a non-Stagala front line and against a non-immortal front line from Fernando who can stall the time despite not being able to heal up during it, Makoa struggles against Inara when a dead zone is on the point. There is a very difficult time for him to navigate, and even in the Ancient Rage, he's just getting melted by so much damage on the board.
So if you're looking at the first round, and even though Onslaught ended up pushing through, there was a moment of time where World Edit on the Drogos was able to get a few kills and delay things.
Yeah.
What do you think the issue was? Was it team follow-up that wasn't there, or what was happening?
For me, it's really just about Vexed finding an identity of how they want to play. It's very clear that Onslaught has decided we are going triple DPS. The way Envy countered this when it was the biggest in the PC meta with Fnatic was they said we are going duo tank. We are sticking with that. And they did it better than almost anyone. And they flexed when they needed to, with Tolkien being able to be that third flex. Does Vexed have that type of flexibility? Yes, we know it. LexiZen can do that. We have players on this roster that are known for flexing, but they've got to put it together in the draft. That's where Onslaught got beat. They didn't get beat this time around there.
Onslaught picking Frog Isle for the map here. How likely do you think it is that Vex do opt to go for that double front line on this map since things didn't work out for them in game number 1?
I think they're going to test it out here. I think the draft is going to tell its tale a little bit towards the later end because Vex now are in a best of 3 backs against the wall. They have to wait and see a little bit of what Onslaught are trying to do. I think if they full commit too early, Onslaught still has the potential on such a swing map like Frog Isle to catch them off guard. So I expect to see a little bit more of the story arc of their narrative pick up towards 4 and 5.
Moji and Bomb King consistently banned out so far within this set, but the Kinessa taken off the table this time as well.
And a Strix is available. I don't know if they're going to want to use it, and Onslaught maybe taking the Drogos to bait out the Strix with Vex. The Strix is no problem if you're running triple DPS because you can send a Buck back there. You can send anybody back there, really. You have the utility in your draft to be able to have somebody just stick onto the Strix. So Vex now taking away the Buck, but do they opt for the Sniper to secure that early, knowing that they've gotten one of the main threats to him potentially off the table?
And Drogo's going over to Onslaught. That means World Edit won't have that available. But Vex, they don't go for any blasters right off the bat so far. It's actually the Leon getting locked in. And that was Lexi Zen last time.
It was really good, too. I mean, the Leon, the Furia, that is a dangerous combination. You've got anti-heal, you've got a player who just won't die, it feels like, because of that Cherish. But Inara locked in for Onslaught and the Furia now. This is going to be very tough. Furia pairs extremely well, but with a triple DPS, it's like combining Genos and Torvald, kind of, and like a burst heal. It's really freaking good. So at this point, I'm a little worried if I'm Vexed, knowing those two went the way of Onslaught.
Plus, Inara during the last game with Trinsic, he had some great seismic crashes that set it up for the rest of the team to follow up and get some more of that objective control. So if he can consistently achieve some of those ultimates, it's a big starting point for Onslaught.
Well, here's the Victor, and this is something that you can do on a map like this, where the grenade peak is a little bit better than Vivian's constant pressure. Vivian is the cunning. People underestimate her on maps where you don't have vision until you're in a fight, and that's why that sentry ward is so important. But here it is, something that surprises me completely. The double Victor and Vivi. I wonder if they just accidentally clicked on the V champions.
So then what do you think the benefit of bringing both could be?
You know what? We haven't seen lineups like this. I'm not going to lie. I think this would probably be the first time I've seen in a competitive series a Vivian and a Victor together. But it is what I'm talking about, too. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities to get the first shot onto someone in Frog Isle. There's a lot of poke. There's a lot of, I need to know if you're coming down this corner. And with the pressure from Inara, the AoE support from Drogos, and the damage from just Victor and Vivian, they don't have a lot of dive, but they have a heck of a lot of damage.
Well, this is game number 2. Onslaught is 1 game away from sending Vex to the bottom of the bracket. And I want to know, casters, what do you think of this Vivian-Victor combo?
Well, it's high octane. It's Victor, it's Vivian, it's a V8 composition here. They have so much damage in their backline, including Furia. You can't sleep on her damage either. You can't forget about Drogos. There is so much, and I think it's going to be nigh impossible for this Buck to get anything done in the backline. But let us know at home who you think is going to be taking this one after the draft. Gore, who do you got money on?
I want to lean a little bit towards Onslaught, but I feel like Vex got such a good draft as well. I mean, they've got the Leon, the Buck, and the Willow. They've got a lot of shutdown, a lot of anti-heal stoppers. The problem is then the damage output that comes down from Onslaught, whether or not they can stay alive long enough to actually apply a lot of what they've been able to draft.
I think a lot of this is going to be settled on the front line, right? You've got this Inara, and you've got this incredibly high-octane backline that is going to prevent anyone from standing in line of sight for too long. But at the same time, you've got such incredible innate anti-heal on the side of Vex. You've got Death and Taxes and just Willow's Dead Zone. So how long is Trinsic really going to be able to stand out there in the wild on Frog Isle, out there under pressure, and receive sustain?
I think both front lines here pretty much are in a bad fight. They're not going to be able to do well. Wonderful getting picked off again for first blood, but it didn't do much last time. This time, though, Trinsic's not going to be able to live anywhere near as long thanks to that dead zone.
Wow, beautiful dredge anchor there. It's looking like it might be the second kill wrapped up here. It is, but not in the order that I think we anticipated. Firing back now, Onslaught have picked up a couple of their own, but that's still a 42% lead on the objective for Vex Gaming.
Now getting pushed away. Wonderful getting aggressive. That shield is going to do wonders for him. You have to shoot him in the feet if you want to be able to get that good damage, but it doesn't even matter. He's just going to chase you down.
Give me them toes. Unfortunately, they're not able to find him this time around. Wonderful. Cool Matt holding down these lines of sights. These are two champions that are far north of 1,000 DPS. The grenade to the backline from Cool Matt's going to be good for one. The support already falling. And any good Vic player will tell you these guys have to go pedal to the metal. They cannot go and retreat. They have to fight their way out of bad situations. Both of them struggling to turn around when it matters most. Welshmania dives, picks up Wonderful, but he won't make it out the other side.
Skeppy being able to find 2 right there. Now you're going to be able to see Miracle step up to the batting plate and be able to hit that damage. 99%, that's going to turn into 100 for Onslaught, as they're now 83% in favor, at least from Mixer Chat, being able to say that. That's who's going to win.
Skeppy back on the blasters here. He's played a lot of hit scan in his day. Really good dredge anchors from Slopodopolis. You have to say, I think I've only seen him miss maybe one so far this game. And they've been really key to keeping Vex Gaming in this. It's just a way of finding how to dive these backliners effectively. Ideally, you want to catch them, I think, separated a little bit, diving onto a Victor and a Vivian and a Furia at the same time while they're all in Flame Gormizer. This is scary stuff.
Welshmania probably the one who needs to do it the best, but the damage is just coming through. World Edit's trying to get away, but Trinsic finds the last hit right there, and that is immediate retreat from Vex Gaming. And again, what you said earlier, you have to fight into this. You have to get aggressive, and that's what Welshmania wants to do.
Man, what a slow response. Wasn't that weird to watch?
Here's the windup.
It was like Miracle is clearly under duress in this backline. Trenzic's looking at it the whole time, but Skeppy and Wonderful just took so long to respond to that. That was very, very strange for me. I feel like you could have easily saved your support there. It was almost like it wasn't until he died that he got the attention that he needed.
Being able to get a little bit of aggression. It's interesting with the way things are going. Welshmania is finding good picks. He wants the Jogos. He wants the Victor. He doesn't really want to go for Vivian. I feel like that's something a Leon wants to go for just for that shield. She's going to have Wrecker, so she's going to be able to take that fight a little bit better. You have the anti-heal. You can try to shut it down a little bit more. But the problem is just, again, like you said, pedal to the metal. This is just all aggression from Onslaught. Once they get a couple kills, they just snowball.
Fuselot here. It's looking good for Skeppy as well. He's connecting in a big way. Fire Spit won't. He's running lower and lower on HP. Beautiful grenades from Cool Matt. Skeppy stays alive as well. They are running this poor Buck in circles. Welshmania cannot find a home.
Not quite sure who he wanted to go for. He was looking for Drogo. Skeppy, though, kind of skirted around the edge every single time. Did not have to face him head on until he got enough healing. Furia, again, giving that burst and that shield. It's going to make it very difficult if Buck can't get you caught out to actually get the kill.
Last chance to dance here. And again, the Ancient Rage doesn't get off in time. Skeppy just intentionally, I think, misses his Dragon Punch at that point. He retains 30% charge. That's 2 games in a row where we see the first payload fail to be contested because of Makoa's Ancient Rage goes off too late.
I feel like that was perfect timing from Skeppy as well, right? There's his Dragon Punch coming through where it's just like, if you stay alive as Makoa, you're dead.
If you did get it off, you
like
would have died anyway.
If you could actually stay alive, then I'll kill you. And if you don't, I'm just going to keep 30%. I'll charge it back up in a couple seconds anyway, so we can put ourselves back on top, get a lot of damage. That 32%, again, it seems like a low number, but Drogo's charges it so fast because he does so much damage, and no one's been able to shut him down, so I just expect he's going to be able to get that relatively soon.
Best KDA, best damage in the game, one of the higher streaks burning right now. Cool Matt, the newest member of this Onslaught roster, his first console wars as well. He's got my vote for MVP at the moment. I think he's been incredible on the Victor. The grenades have been on point. Every single time we've seen him on screen, we have caught a beautiful grenade. Welshmania is struggling, though. That's the story for this Buck. He cannot find a way to get into this backline. Inflame is popped for Onslaught. Both teams looking for their first kill. Again, it's Cool Matt finding the first one. It's Cool Matt finding the second one. And it's Cool Matt looking for his third. But meanwhile, on the front lines, Wonderful has popped his shield, found 2 of his own, and it's another dominant team fight from Onslaught.
The 2Vs getting 2 kills each, being able to set up everything, and he gets aggressive, goes into it. Him and Wonderful setting it up, and again, these grenades are what's setting things off. Doesn't get the reset on the cooldown right there, but just keeps that internal cooldown for later, is able to get a lot of damage off with the way Cool Matt's been playing this, and as long as they can keep this pressure up, again, you're looking at Welshmania, there's literally nowhere he can stand.
Look at, oh my goodness gracious, it's Wonderful. He pulls a triple kill out of thin air, cleaning up a lot of good kills. You gotta give him the spray. Big style points there for young Nick.
Not quite emote level, but we've seen from Fasheko what happens if you emote too soon. You will die. So you have to be able to hold on to that one.
Wonderful made sure the fight was over first before he goes ahead, drops a little BM onto the battlefield. Now being forced to back up as the respawns come through. Here comes the windup. We're hearing it, but we're not seeing the impact of Welshmania as he falls yet again. The Buck has just not had the legs to go the distance here on Frog Isle.
Alexi just kind of stuck in this position. Can't do too much trying to take down Skeppy, but Skeppy's just not going down. Fuselot hitting way too hard. You dash away. You can't outrun the dragon.
Gets right around the corner as well. Breaks line of sight. The only threat on the board still for him. Welshmania has respawned. Wonderful's brought really low. Cool Matt, not the same story for him and Trinsic. All the while, a rock on the objective, continuing his campaign towards excellence. Misses the seismic crash there. He was looking for the kill onto the support. Cool Matt's still alive in the backline though, Core.
Right now though, Dragon Punch is the one to keep my eyes on. Welshmania Nart going down. You have a kill Makoa free, and that's what Skeppy's gonna do, going straight into it. As long as Trinsic stays alive, this payload's looking comfortable.
Oh my goodness. And you're seeing one of the downfalls of the controller there. These players just sometimes can't turn fast enough to land the abilities, but that doesn't stop Onslaught from claiming 2 straight victories and moving on in the winner's bracket.
Taking the momentum from game number 1 and just turning it up to 11 for game number 2. Victor and Vivian, I would say normally you don't expect that kind of performance, but when you're hitting that many shots, you get your ults off like Vivian did. Wonderful had pretty much no worries for his Sentinels, and you have grenades the way Cool Matt threw them out. There's nothing to really stop you.
Backline, really, really solid. Again, the front line as well, you got to give credit to Trinsic. He's been phenomenal as well, making sure staying on the objective at all times, looking for angles to help whenever he possibly can. Guys, go ahead and throw your votes out for who you think MVP should be in that game. I don't want to sway the vote. I've already kind of talked a little bit about who I think deserves it that time around, but what do you think? Is that a standard console draft? Because I think that was kind of beautifully orchestrated to counter out that buck.
That feels, not only to counter the buck, but counter Makoa, that feels like something Onslaught have practiced, where it's like, well, we've had Vivian in the past, we've had Victor in the past, and we have Drogos now.
How do you jump on that?
We can just put them together, and I feel like that's just one of those rare moments where it's like, you know what? Let's see if they work together.
Another Tay draft coming out on top, guys. Let's send this one back over the desk to move things along.
Are Vivian and Victor the new power couple?
I don't think so, though it is nice, and Vogue would love it, because then it'd be V and V.
That's the only reason. Like, it just seems like it would be such a nice package.
Paladins, Vogue, they get the cover, no doubt about it. But I think at the end of the day, this draft went wrong in the bans. Unfortunately, the buck was not even close enough to deal with the threats on the ground, but the threat on the sky. You could not forget about Skeppy. Cool Matt getting the MVP. Fantastic performance from him today so far on the Willow and the Victor. But the reason this was so deadly is because they weren't one-dimensional. If you have a Victor and a Vivian, and then you have like a Leon, or you have something like that, it's pretty one-dimensional what you're doing. Your hit scan, you're from afar, your mid-range is meh, your close range is crazy if they're not looking at you, and your long range is decent poke. And if you have a Bomb King or a Drogos to make them look up and down, that's where I think Vex Gaming could have turned it around. I just, fortunately, think that Onslaught weren't countered here, and they took advantage of it really well.
It also made it really difficult to try and counter with itemization and things, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are those different types of threats that were coming from the side of Onslaught.
And why do you let Furia go? Again, that's, that's a big question. People are getting punished for letting Furia go. And honestly, it's a Star Splitter Genos combined with a Torvald Legendary, combined with a Burst Heal better than any other healer in the game aside from Mega Potion Pip. It is an incredible threat that she brings to triple DPS compositions in particular, because she basically does the job of 2 very high-tier champions.
And then on the opposite side with Vexed, if we're talking about the Buck, it seemed that earlier on when the Buck Wild came out, got a couple kills, but it was partially because of the lack of response from the opposite team.
Yeah.
But as soon as they start responding, definitely looked a bit more frazzled.
Yeah, and the Buck is great. I mean, you isolate a Buck, put him in a ring with somebody else, that ring skin, the wrestler skin for Buck, he's going to take him down. But when Buck is surrounded by multiple people, and when you talk about DPS levels the way Vivian and Victor have, and I like the Vivian's consistency. Clearly, Victor was the flex, but they still have the vision. Buck is not surprising anyone. The Sentry Ward is an underlooked ability that gives you the first shot on a high DPS champion. That's always going to matter in these types of games.
It was noted by the casters, too, that Slopodopolis had some great hooks and everything, but the Ancient Rages didn't seem to be following through as effectively. But Onslaught, they are the victors of this set, and they have something to say about it.
From anyone, really. All right, guys, we're here with the winners, of course, of our first set of the day. Trinsic, I want to get your thoughts on what is it like to now have to be that solo frontline, especially with Wonderful on your team, right? How was that decision made when we want to start running 3 DPS, that we want you and not Wonderful to hold down this frontline by yourself?
Wonderful can play a few characters very well, like Vivian and Moji, and I just play the point tanks better. So we decided to make that call, and it has been working very well. You'd think like solo tank, like how does that work? Like how does one tank beat 2 or however many they want to run? And I mean, when you have 3 DPS that are as good as my teammates, it's simple.
I feel like it just plays into the myth that Wonderful plays everyone as though they're Ruckus. It's just Moji. You bring out the Vivian. Same kind of concept. And Vivian was actually really big for you because I think having that shield shred, was that really like the counter to Makoa? You guys weren't really worried about him because once the dome shield was up, it came right back down.
Yeah, he can't contest point if we have Vivian and Inara.
So Skeppy, back on the Blasters in game number 2. I want to talk about
just that backline draft in general. Was the Victor, Vivian, and honestly Furia as well, that damage is nothing to sleep on. Is that something done in response to Buck to make it impossible for him to dive on that backline?
So the Victor pick, it's Matt. Once we switched him out with Soldier Bot, Matt's comfort is, these weird characters that aren't really meta but can be good. So, I mean, Victor's his comfort. That was the only thing. It was either that or a Strix, and he wanted Victor, so.
Beautiful stuff, guys. Congratulations on your first win, and good luck to you in your future matches.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get this dang thing on, man.
Oh,
here we go. There
hey
it
guys.
is. There.
What's
up?
We just got a little distracted
That's
playing
right.
something. But we have some time to do it because we have a break coming up. So I suggest that you do the same. We're going to keep kicking some booty here in Paladinos.
That's play.
But bracket-wise, we know Onslaught moved on within it to continue within the winner's bracket, while Vexed Gaming dropped to the bottom. And soon enough, we will know who their opponent is going to be after Elevate and Flashpoint up next. Another battle.
Yo,
but,
this is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't even have a Switch. This is
I don't
crazy.
either.
I'm playing this game
I
on
might
the desk.
take this one.
Can you guys see it if I do this? Just asking, just for strictly. Can you guys see me playing? Oh, okay, I think we know what we're doing. I think I know what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
we got
go.
some time to do it, though, everybody. So we'll see you after the break.
Baladamba.